Hello. Good morning.
How's it
Hey,
going?
Ramesh, good morning.
Good morning. Hey,
Hello.
Ramesh. Hey, Sako. Sako, that almost looks like a new haircut, man. I'm not. Am I getting that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's fresh new.
Ah.
Uh,
Hey, look. Until you wrangle yourself a girlfriend, I'm gonna have to be the one that points out your new haircuts. You know.
One day.
Hi.
Hey, Vergun.
How are you, Lee?
Oh, good. Thanks for coming. This is great.
Thank you.
Where are you located today? Where are you based out of?
Yeah. First time.
Oh, nice.
He is now in Baku,
Oh, okay.
but he was here and he will come soon in September.
Ah, all right. To to your area?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, very good. It's great to have you. You know, actually, a couple of things to help get you oriented as we begin and as people start to trickle in. Let me make sure that you've got a link to the meeting minutes so that you can follow along as we go, and actually so that you can edit them a bit as we go as well. Let's make sure. So I'm going to post in the chat a link to the meeting minutes. And if you don't have access, just request it. We'll get it to you. Okay, good. Okay, so the link to the meeting minutes is there. As just some housekeeping as we get going. So for folks that have been on the call before, so Ramesh and Jorge, Sako, just the meeting minutes, like much of the project, is community property. So that means two things. Probably it's yours to modify, and as you do, treat it well. But please modify. Please take notes as we go. And at some point, we're going to get figured out how I can configure Google Meet to stop making people ask me to join the call, because everybody can join. It's not a. Anyway, good. Subham is on. I think we're going to have Garish on, but from the sounds of it, Jorge probably wore him out. Is that right, Jorge?
Sorry, can you say that again? You kind of broke off a little bit on my end.
Oh, no, okay. I was going to say, I was expecting for Garish to be on at any moment, but I figured...
He's here.
Yeah, he's here.
I just figured you might have wore him out, you know?
I try my best.
Yeah, I know. The thing is, like, Sako's got a fantastic looking haircut, but Garish is... just like the tinge of gray is starting to come through, and it's I don't know that it's wisdom or distinguishment, but it's one, or just old age. I don't know. It's one of the two.
Old but gold.
Good, good. So Madhav has joined, Nikhil has joined. Good. Everyone who's been here at least once understands it's Friday morning. I couldn't be more giddy and happy about it being Friday morning. And that means that the harassment and the sarcasm flows freely. So, but it's a two-way street, so I expect to get hammered at some point. I'm gonna get nice. I'm gonna. Oh no. Okay, yeah, we've got the. I'm gonna post the meeting minutes in the chat, maybe for the second time. So Madhav? Did we lose everybody? Sako?
No, we are here.
Oh, okay. I don't know what just... Anyway, Madhav and Nikhil, do you guys see the chat history? I'm curious. Do you see a link in the chat already?
No. We haven't got
Okay. So you can never have enough links to Meshery things. So there's a link to the meeting minutes. I'm going to pull them up now. We're 5 after. We've got a healthy crowd. We've got some general announcements to make, actually. Some good things to go over. Good. If you haven't added yourself to the minutes, please do. And actually, Varun, or I'm sorry, Virgun, maybe Sako, you might be able to facilitate getting Virgun access to the minutes. Yeah, get his name down anyway.
To the document to give access?
Yeah, if you can.
Sure. To his email that
Yeah.
I will get from myself. Okay.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hey, actually, I think there's a lot of stuff to talk about, so I'm gonna stop wasting time with the dad jokes and jump into it. Some general announcements. I'm very pleased that Virgun has joined us today. That's awesome. Please, everybody, welcome him. Spend some time to get to know him on Slack, if you would. I was actually expecting a couple of other folks to join. Subham and Anand have been just doing a fantastic job of telling other folks, not only in their own university in Jaipur, about the effort and the community, but students at other local universities as well. And so I was expecting maybe that a couple of them might be able to join today. We'll see. I think I heard a knock on the proverbial door. Let me make sure that everybody's in. Oh, there it is. Speaking of Gunjan, your ears are burning. Thank you for coming. I was just talking about you. Okay, good. So actually we have two new community members. Gunjan and Ashish. I'm gonna want to put the sheesh on the end. It's gonna be bad. But you guys can keep me honest. Okay, good. Sorry, I keep having to check the meeting to make sure that nobody's knocking on the door and they're not getting let in. So I definitely got to get that fixed. Okay. Oh boy. Did somebody just? No. Okay, good. Okay. I'm sorry. I feel like we have ADD this morning, or at least I do. Some great announcements. I think one. It'd been long in the works, but finally it has come out and is currently under review. So hopefully everyone on the call is familiar with the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, the CNCF. One of the areas that I spend a lot of time in, and I know some of you do as well, is within the CNCF. And so I've just put forth a proposal, or finished off a proposal for a new SIG, a new special interest group. CNCF SIGs are distinct from Kubernetes SIGs. The CNCF had previously had a few different working groups. We have since we are in the process of turning down those working groups and establishing SIGs, more or less kind of rebranding them and redefining their charter with a bit more explicit language around what SIGs are entitled to do and what they're supposed to do. And so two have been formed and a third is in the process. I've co-chaired the CNCF networking working group, and now I'm proposing a CNCF SIG network. The link is in our meeting minutes if you're interested in reading through it. It describes, well, the focus of what this special interest group will do, what's kind of in focus and out of focus. And the reason that it's quite pertinent to our Meshery discussion is that Meshery, assuming that we continue to garner new community members and those that are here do what they can in terms of contribution, Meshery itself is on a path to the CNCF as a CNCF project. So for all of you on the call, get in good now and work your way to maintainership or what have you, work your way to nerd glory as this thing enters into the sandbox, hopefully. I don't want to say it too many times and jinx it. It's a little ways out, but I've been with the CNCF from the start. I've worn every hat there is, other than being on the TOC. And actually, this last round of votes, I was just a few spots away from being on the TOC. So I'll do what we can in the meantime to help some of that effort rub off on Meshery. So that's good. I thought I'd mention it. I know I mentioned this last time. I'm highlighting this next item again, in part because I'm going to harass Pratik until he rejoins. I think he just ended his internship this summer, so he's back at University of Austin. He's been focusing on our scale and performance testing. Google signaled last week that they wanted to earnestly engage with us and give Istio and other service meshes an honest and a third-party run for their money. So we haven't followed up on that discussion. I'm really waiting for Pratik to come back so we can engage a little bit better. Kind of pausing in between each of these in case people have comments, but I'm just going to keep going otherwise. Most of you know we've been trying to do what we can to be organized about the project. And so a new Twitter account was created, Meshery.io. Most of you, I think, are familiar with the existing Twitter account that goes under the handle of Layer 5. Layer 5 being the name of the service mesh community. And lots of good things have happened there. But in trying to help segregate the two or establish the two, the project and the community, as independent things, got a new Twitter handle. So be sure to follow it, add it. If it's not following you and you're on this call, then let me know and we need to follow you, because I will pause and highlight, and I think Subham and maybe Anand are on the call, but one of the first things that was done on that Twitter handle was just a recognition of thanks and a moment of appreciation for all that you guys do in the community. I know it's not much and hardly worth anything, but hopefully it's the thought that counts, as we just sent out a couple copies of the report on service meshes to say thanks. So it's very, very much appreciated you guys come.
Thank you.
Yeah. And actually, yeah, your voice cut out, but I just, back at you. I think Subbu. Sako, I didn't send you one because I figured you'd probably use it as toilet paper anyway. So it's All right. Finally, hey, there's a demo to go on today. Last night, changes were landed in the Istio adapter, the Linkerd adapter, the console adapter, and in Meshery itself. And it brings forward a bit of a new experience. I think you guys have seen it previously, but it's good to walk through because some changes are there. It's also be good for you to put your thinking hats on and your critical thinking hats on as we go through that demo and see if you can call out any areas that continue to need improvement, or if we've introduced bugs as we've enhanced this section. So beyond that, I think, so the general announcement's done. One of the things that I wanted to begin to attempt to do, and maybe we'll do it, try to be more organized next week, but is to begin to not pre-populate the meeting minutes quite as much. I think getting them prepped is nice because we can walk through them and see what changed and what's going on and give people an opportunity to understand those things and ask questions. But we will probably begin to look for people to sign up for demo of work in progress or of things that they've done, so that they can get some feedback, real time from the rest of the community. So we'll see how that goes. I know some people have some things to demo. So rather than maybe walking through the issues that were closed and the issues that were opened, I'll say this, just take a moment to look over these. If you see some that jump out, we can double click on them and talk about them. Otherwise, I'm going to wait for someone to kind of raise their hand and say, they've either got a question about something, or they've got something to demo, they've got a topic they want to bring up.
So, Lee, this is Ramesh here. This could be a little dumb question, but wanted to see if like Istio addresses routing, and then like Kubernetes addresses the management of containers. But I really don't see any unless we could use Kafka or something for events and like message communication. Can we integrate anything from Kafka into like event or basically like some kind of a message propagation between services? Because there are a lot of requirements where you don't want to call one service from the other service through the endpoints or through the SQs. You can do service discovery and then send it directly. But then we have some things like Kafka or MQ and all this stuff that actually you need to as a decoupled system that you can go and get it. But I was like you'll have to keep on integrating certain systems. So is there any way where we can propagate state between services?
Yeah. Oh man, this is Ramesh. Great topics. Actually, there's a few of them in there. I'm gonna pick out one to think aloud with you, and one of those is is a recognition that message buses, Kafka in particular, have found their ways kind of prominently into cloud native design, cloud native application designs, and that being a bit closer to that can be helpful. That there is, I believe, an Envoy filter specific to Kafka has landed, meaning such that now Envoy as the sidecar proxy can speak Kafka linguise, if you will, or understand that these are Kafka messages that are in fact flowing back and forth. As part of that, I think you're describing much more than what I'm about to articulate, but just as an initial step, something that would be interesting would be that, hey, within the Meshery UI I think would be interesting would be within the Meshery UI to the extent that you're running Kafka on any of the service meshes or the ones that support an understanding of Kafka, so like Istio and its use of Envoy, would be to do some intuitive service discovery. And by service discovery, I don't mean like Kubernetes service discovery, but rather, I think what you're trying to get to is like discovery of publishers and subscribers, and maybe informing users that, hey, these are the publishers and subscribers that the service mesh is facilitating, messages back and forth between. That doesn't seem like a super far stretch. Does that make sense as like a first? Would that, in your mind, is that one of the things that you're thinking of?
Yeah. So it's like you said, basically getting some parts of Kafka and integrating with only because it provides service discovery, and then we have sidecar from like individual services. I was still finding something missing somewhere. If I have to propagate information, I need to like especially event propagation and all this stuff. It's slightly lot cumbersome, in terms of propagating a state or not just a state, even the event. So I was thinking, is there any way where we can integrate some of that stuff? Because this is available, just use service discovery. So along with the service discovery, can we have some things where, okay, hey, this needs to communicate with this, or this can subscribe to that, and that way, we can propagate the I don't know, sidecar or do sidecar or something like this. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, Ramesh. Ramesh, it is to me actually. There might be some other community members that want to chime in here, but like of the like facilitating the collection, the centralization and collection of events. That's certainly a helpful thing for understanding what's going on with your application. Of the can you give a couple of examples of the type of events that you're thinking might be good to capture?
Not the application, it's logging or metrics, but then more of some events. For example, if I want to produce and like subscribe to some messages that use Kafka, right? So I'm thinking if for that you need to go to Kafka, then for like some of the like caching, you need to go to Redis, different servers, right? So if you can get a little bit of for bigger stuff or how a lot of parallel transactions, you might need that. But then for some smaller information, right now since we already have like some place like Zoo people to get the config information, every little piece of software that we have or we communicate with will have some state that we gather and use it. So in some way, like is there a central place? Like this is like this is like Kubernetes of Kubernetes, right? So for example, the Meshery, it basically helps in Istio actually does help Kubernetes for routing. But then, since we are in a mesh, is something like a central store of a little bit of common information that needs to be passed around beyond just the service discovery itself. Maybe I'm not able to communicate well. I guess probably.
No, that makes sense. I think like and Sako may have something he wants to share actually. I'll say this really quick, Sako, and that's that. Yeah, Ramesh, your description of Meshery as something of a Kubernetes of Kubernetes, or like another way of articulating it is you hear Meshery described as a management plane and as like a director level piece of software. So if within Kubernetes you have worker nodes and you have the control, and that's kind of the data plane, if you will. You have the control plane within Kubernetes. And there isn't a higher level plane. Actually, that's where Meshery would sits on top of those, and is something of a director, if you will, or a management plane thing. But yeah, it does facilitate the collection of events and the reporting of events as those are reported through the individual service mesh adapters today. And so it's a small, there's a small separation that can, a gap that can be closed between facilitating the collection of a lot. So each of the meshes collect a fair bit of telemetry, and some of that telemetry is in the form of logs or in the form of events. And to the extent that those meshes are able to garner application specific, like Kafka or Redis, or like specific event, like count of events or count of subscribers or count of publishers, that type of a thing. That info, there's a path for that trickling back into Meshery and helping people understand that what applications are running on their meshes and how well they're doing or not doing, or what's currently going on with them. Part of that can help with a bit of service discovery that you were alluding to before, is like, hey, if you've got a service mesh running, but there's no application on top, and you take and onboard your application onto the mesh, and the application happens to be using Kafka or Redis, yes, I think you're on a good path there, that Meshery can augment those. The meshes are seeing that traffic, and Meshery while the service meshes are really today much more focused on controlling traffic and making sure that only services that are supposed to speak to other services are doing that Meshery can augment the existing service mesh functionality by pulling forward some of the information that you're describing. Sako, go ahead.
Yeah, I will just quickly add what was Lee saying. When we were doing the engine mesh project, so we just skipped to replace the mixer with a Kafka, and I shared in the chat the link. You can give a try. What Lee was saying, Envoy is doing these filters. You can, if you are using Nginx as a proxy, you can skip the mixer, but it's just gonna be like in the sidecar proxies. Basically, you will have some topic. You will send, it's just only the reporting functionality, and then you can plug the Grafana, etc. But still, it's not in the same functionality gives as a mixer, including the quota management, etc. is not there in the Kafka. It's just in one direction. So yeah, it has some downside as well if you wanna fully replace the mixer.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Ramesh, we should, when we do find some time to catch up in a smaller group, we should absolutely explore these a bit more deeply, because that's certainly within scope of Meshery and what some things that we would like, value that we would like for it to provide to people.
Let's bring Nginx, Lee.
Yeah, well, yeah, or maybe, actually, Sako, even just having you present or review some of these things that have been done in the past, that would be worthwhile.
Yeah, it was rolled back. That's why I put from my own fork. Like if you go to Nginx in 7.1, we again brought back the mixer. But yeah, it's in this my fork. It still exists.
Okay. It was rolled back because, I mean, I know Engine Mesh itself as a project kind of went to the wayside, but was it this particular functionality that was rolled back itself?
Yeah, it was also one of my last tasks was to roll back to mixer. They were thinking like, okay, now we should catch up with the mixer, which just didn't work out. So it was initiative of CEO, and it was working pretty well. Mm-hmm. We tested it and we plug in the gray log also, like because also using Elasticsearch like Kafka and then gray log, and there is boss demos in case you can give it a try. Yeah.
Okay, nice. We might want to put that as something for you to demo next week, just if it's still in a demo.
Sure.
So Ramesh, we're putting the link to what Sako just pointed out inside the meeting minutes.
Cool. Yeah, so Lee, as I mentioned, I need to catch up with you guys a little later. I have a meeting to go. You guys have a great day. Yeah? Thanks.
Sure.
Very good.
Yes, ma'am.
Talk to you soon, Ramesh.
Sure. Bye.
Okay, very good.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right. Okay, next up, I guess still we're kind of at an open call for topics that people want to bring up before we go into other demos. So anything that anyone worked on this week or whether it was this week or previously that they've yet to share, they've yet to demo?
I think just the WRK, the JSON format, I guess, quickly.
Okay, yeah.
In case we can show that's okay. So 1 second.
While you're switching, I'm just going to call out Fanji, who joined. Excellent.
Yeah. Sure.
It's good to see him on the call.
Yeah, I guess you can see my screen now.
Yep.
So basically right now I'm using the WRK2 from the Tilo fork. We are getting something like completely in JSON format. what we discussed with Lee and Grish early this week regarding the count, the quiz count, the percentile, and the value, the kind of delay it's showing as a JSON format. So there was a couple things to do. So one of the approaches tried to, because of, I will not go to technical details anyway, but we're gonna maintain our own fork in a reason that we're gonna turn off the printf and because it was returning the integer value and then change it to the struct and some more changes that probably it won't be exactly what the WRK wants, but meanwhile that's the output is good enough for us. We can continue for the backend side the development, because right now I added in the law also some mean average maximum SDF, like so. And if we see now visit table, pretty much we get all the stuff we need. So that's it.
That's great.
Table is giving. So yeah, that's Grish. Are you here? What do you think? Do you think it's good enough for us to as output?
This is a great start, man. Yeah, this is great. Like, I mean, we can definitely start working towards, extracting data from there, like, or computing the data, like, type precisely, like, the way we want it for Meshery, which is pretty much like the full IO format. Yeah, this is this is definitely a good step.
Okay, so yeah, we will just need these arguments now and just from the front end the change, and then we should get this in a format. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah.
And Sako, is there, as of right now with this change, is there any difference between this output and 4IO's output?
So for the output, let me open that one. It's there is a bit much stuff here, but like it's more main things that we wanted. So you see here what's missing. You can see my screen still. Okay, that's a start and what we were discussing. That's
Okay.
It's not there, but the count is here, and then we pretty much merging these two, percent count and this percentile value. Now, basically, we have the value, we have the count, and we have the percentile.
Okay.
So
nice.
We have it in one, and then we don't have the sum, but we have average, SD, dev, max, min, count. All these we have pretty much all these, and then some stuff from here missing, but some is there. We can add what we have.
I think those are okay. I mean, most of the data we are trying to extract is actually for the ability to chart them out the way we are able to do it with 4IO data. So I think if I think we already have pretty much the right pieces. The rest is all educational. I think some is probably never. I don't think some is ever used, so I think we don't need it. So things like that. So this is good.
There are some extra in case I just put in if we need to go through interesting maybe bytes and duration and microsecond. Otherwise, the rest pretty much what we need. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Nice. Good. It's good progress. Okay. Just bringing the meeting minutes back up. Before we go through the other items here, anyone else have something they want to show? Or anyone else have just some questions that they have, some areas that they were thinking about getting into and maybe want to talk about it now? Okay, so if memory serves, I think we had, was it last week we had enough fresh faces that we kind of went through a demo of Meshery? I think that was last week. This week, there have been enough enhancements to the user experience that we should probably demo that, and we've got a couple of fresh faces this week as well, and so maybe that walking through that demo is probably going to help some. Girish, do you want to share that? Or I've got it here as well.
Sure. I mean, yeah, if you have it, like I think doing it from your machine is better. I mean,
Okay.
it's mine is still like a development environment. Yeah, but I can do it if you wanted to. I have it ready.
If I can find the window quick enough. Whoever finds the window first. Where's my... Wow. Okay, right now, are you guys seeing the meeting minutes?
Yes.
Okay. Then I think I can't find it because I closed the window. All right. Well, just as a recap, there's been some recent effort to bubble up some of the functionality within Meshery because there's been enough functionality put into the project that it's at a sort of an initial MVP of usefulness, if you will. I've been asking quite a few folks for feedback, and have been doing that for about a month, and realizing maybe a few weeks ago that some of the feedback was never given in certain areas of the project because I just don't think people understood that it went as deep as it did. And in part because service meshes are new and people are still trying to understand what those are. And so we've been trying to change the experience a little bit, bubble up some of its capabilities. That started some time ago, I think initially with the creation of a dashboard or a home page, if you will. So anytime you open up Meshery, the default landing page is this dashboard. And today, and hopefully it shows something much, much different in the future, but today it just really talks to you about the environment that you're within and its connection status to Kubernetes and to its adapters. It will facilitate, it tells you, because these are grayed out and using a generic icon, that these adapters are not connected. It should be the case that when you click here, it does send off a request to, it tries to connect to the adapter. So it tries to ping them. And in my environment, it is not able to ping them. I suspect that this is probably an issue that we have in the project because my environment does have these adapters running locally. Does anybody have an idea as to why that would be the case, that we're not able to speak to those?
Can you try reloading the page just once?
Yep, there we go. I emptied cache.
So yeah, maybe there's a delay in connecting establishing connection to the adapter. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. I would suggest maybe open a bug and we can investigate that later. Sure.
Okay. Yeah. And so actually now I kind of forget. So the newer, so we've been trying to enhance this a bit, pull up some of its functionality. And so that was restructuring and putting results underneath performance because these results are performance test results. I'm pleased to see that folks are testing out Aspen Mesh. That's good. Under the management area, it had been a bit of a change around in terms of how it is that people are going into settings and configuring settings. There's an enhancement that needs to happen here so that this isn't as confusing as it is about setting up your environment. But as you go to load up a config, it reads through the config, identifies the context, identifies the local adapters, which seem to be successfully connecting from this screen. And as they're connected, part of the enhancement that people might not have seen yet is the notion that each of those adapters are now listed in the management section. And so as a user, you navigate over and you begin to have a little bit of a different experience with each of the different types of meshes. And what we're highlighting is this capability was there previously, but we're beginning to highlight in a different way that you can do these things. I know we demoed much of this last time. I think Babav at the time had some good feedback about the provisioning actions versus the deprovisioning actions. So the provisioning actions being what are captured under this plus sign, in this case provisioning two different applications or deleting those two different applications. So what was highlighted and what's an area of need for the project is synchronization between what's actually deployed currently and whether that's, if there's a service mesh deployed of that kind and whether or not there are applications running on that mesh. Meshery doesn't support brownfield deployments, if you will. Right now, Meshery is about the fact that many people are just learning about service meshes and beginning to adopt them, and it facilitates the installation of them in a greenfield way. But Meshery needs to be smarter than that. And as soon as a particular type of adapter is connected, part of the responsibility of each of those types of adapters would be to go out, look for an existing deployment of console or of Linkerd, and understand what that deployment is like and pull back information about it. So that hasn't been done yet. Girish, any other changes in this UI that we've done as of late that I should call out?
No, actually, I think you pretty much touched on the main areas. So the only difference was last week it was just a working demo. It was not yet fully functional. Now this week it is all functional. So if you can go back and click on Meshery ACO and go to the custom config section, we have retained the previous behavior where it'll actually show the YAML interaction, but nothing much has actually changed. So the only change was that the last week was a is in progress session, but this week we are trying to land the PR so everybody kind of can actually try it out for yourself. We just merged the PR last night, so. Again, like Lee said, free to actually hit us back with issues or something you find. It'll be great to actually hear your feedback with in every aspect.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, good. So I think everyone of what you're seeing here, this is just to repeat what Girish had said, is that this is now available, so everyone can go try it out, see if there's any bugs in there. Okay. Outside of that. So comments or questions on this before we go back?
Looks good. I'm gonna give it a try.
It's getting there. We're getting closer.
Yeah. More interactive, I guess.
Yeah. Hopefully just the navigation between all of the features of the project are a bit more intuitive. People understand that. I think one thing that there's a lot of power in the ability to display these results and to compare these results. And I don't know how often it is that people understand that they can do comparisons like this, or comparisons across many different tests. But there's a lot of power in there. I think that that's very useful to people ongoing. I don't know that, or here's what I do know for sure, is that this functionality, it's not documented anywhere. There aren't any demos on YouTube or on someone's blog post or on the project site that describe this. So there's a lot of, I guess you'd say kind of documentation and marketing material that's yet to come forth to help explain that to people. It'd be great if we had a short demo of the Octarine adapter, for example, that can help people understand how to use it and show them how to get connected. So if that's up anyone's alley, just signal and we'll make you famous, I guess is the thing. Okay, good. I was hoping Kieran would be on today to be able to do the brew formula demonstration for Meshery CTL. I'm going to poke at him this week and make sure he joins next week to show that. I think there's been one other industry announcement that's intriguing. And as a matter of fact, we're having a discussion on next week with VMware, who announced. So for some of you are aware that VMware World is VMware's, I think it's a biannual conference. They had it this week, and it was Kubernetes. One of the things announced was this open service mesh integration collaboration, I think is what it was called. But really, it's similar in purpose to SMI, to Service Mesh Interface. And so, given that its goals are very well aligned with Meshery, we certainly want to go engage there. And we're meeting with that team next week. Did this hit anyone else's radar this week? I'll put a link to the post. New open source service mesh interoperation collaboration.
But do they want to build their own service mesh, or?
No, they want to basically build an SMI, and a layer of abstraction that means that you can. I mean, I don't know. You could have a cynical perspective and say, well, hey, this is Google and VMware's and Pivotal's way of creating an SMI because they were really excluded from what Microsoft did before. They were excluded up until like 2 weeks before it was announced. And so they're creating their own. Now, that said, I think it goes deeper than that. There are differences between the two, but the purpose of them is similar in nature. The goal of them is similar in nature, to provide a layer of abstraction, a common API across service meshes.
Interesting.
And so, yeah, I mean, you can see of the players that were there, HashiCorp is the only one in common between the two. And we'll certainly see other players like Meshery come forth as common between the two. But yeah, the what it means for service mesh users is the goals are fairly similar. So, okay, I'll put a link to that in there. Okay, so we've got about 10 minutes left. What was it? Interoperability? What was it? Interoperation, collaboration. It's a big old name. Okay, so of the time that we have left, who's got a particular point of discussion that they want to bring up? Or who wants to, Chaim, if you're here, one thing that we were just reviewing was these changes in the management section of Meshery, and those changes have meant a couple updates to the protobuf that's shared between each of the adapters and Meshery. Girish, do you want to highlight what those are? Because those affect each adapter.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the changes are like, Lee, can you actually? Yeah, if you go to the issues, so we have one which is opened last night. You can see I have links to all of them. So the proto definition, like there are two tiny changes. Like one is the inclusion of a category to associate the supported app. Now, in order to correlate that with the demo, if you go to the management area, there are these categories of items like install, configure, validate, sample application, and custom YAML. So now all these are actually created as categories. So every time you try to perform an operation, they are associated with the categories. This comes from the adapter because we didn't take away that. So what we did is we created this category in the protobuf file, and now when the supported operations are returned in the response. Exactly. So line number 52. So you can see that is actually related in the supported operation. So the supported operation now contains three values, like a key value and a category. So now using this in the UI, your items will actually be, or the operations will be grouped according to their category. So under install, you might have three items: sample applications 4, configure 2, validate 1, something like that. So in order to give that grouping, we have brought in this capability. The other one is actually.
Actually, wait, let's pause there for a moment. Just
Sure.
make sure, Chaim, is this digesting for you?
Oh yeah, it seems pretty straightforward.
Sorry, Rich.
Awesome. The other one is just a second. I'm just confirming that we changed it, made it through. So the other one is actually inclusion of an operation ID. So if you can go back to the proto, So essentially, that's an example of how the operation ID is used. So the only method that needs an update is actually apply operation, because here in the apply operation, the apply a rule request will actually contain an operation ID, and the expectation is the response will contain the same operation ID. Again, this is just like the distributed tracing where the trace ID is passed. So we are trying to pass around the operation ID so that eventually, when we actually kind of can show the concurrent or the existing tasks that are being executed on the mesh, we can actually have a hold of how the requests and the responses can be connected with one another. So here you can actually see line number 75 is the events response, which now contains the operation ID, and then the apply rule request and response. With 38, for example, is a response for apply rule. The apply rule response, and same way for 34. So 34 and 39 are the new additions, which is the operation ID in the request and the response. So all you have to do is just include it in the response. So I've tried to include an example of the Istio adapters code where I try to showcase that in the issue link. So hope that is helpful. But again, if you have any issues, any concerns, please feel free to actually reach out to us. So we have created two issues, one for the Octane adapter and one for an SM adapter. So these are the two adapters that are being contributed by other community members. So it'll be great if these changes can be incorporated. They are very tiny changes, so it shouldn't take you guys much time to actually incorporate them.
Yeah, I'll probably be able to push it into the Octane adapter either today or by Tuesday.
Awesome. Thank you, Hayes.
Okay, good. All right. Who else? Anybody else have anything? I know many of you are working on individual areas, and that much of the time those require some smaller group chats. And so I guess out of curiosity, for those that are on the subscribe to the Layer 5 calendar, curious if you see 3 different meetings. So we've got one on Wednesday, early morning in the US to be able to catch up with those in India. We've got our community calls on Friday, and we've got one on Monday as well for load generation. So if we need another one, don't hesitate. We'll Cool. Okay. All right. If you're in US or Canada, have a great extended weekend.
Thank you. See you
Yeah.
guys.
Thank
See
you.
you.
Yeah. Very good.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Bye.